So on the audiobook thing, there was an interesting story by Nathan Hull on the Bookseller, and he wrote about how he's predicting two tiers of audiobooks moving into the future. And he kind of presented this as a prediction, but really it's already kind of here. So those two tiers are full cast audiobooks, which we're seeing now for the Dresden Files, and the Harry Potter books are getting a full cast release. And these often have like Foley sound effects, sometimes music, sometimes um, like spatial. So like if people are having conversation in a hallway, it sounds different than if they're having a conversation outside. There's lots of sound effects. So it feels like listening to a movie. And Nathan's prediction is that we're basically going to have two tiers of audiobooks. So we're going to have the traditional single narrator audiobook, and then this new full cast audiobook production. And I actually think that we're going to see three tiers. I think he's right, but he's not as right as he realizes. And they're going to map very closely to the three tiers of paper books that we have. So the mass market paperback equivalent in the audiobook space is going to be an 11 Labs quality AI narration. Quick, cheap, fast, and meant for mass market appeal. Paperback maps to single narrator audiobooks, right? It's kind of the bread and butter. It's what most people consume. It's what most people buy. And then the hardback equivalent is the full cast audio production. So full cast audio production is expensive. It's more complicated. Adding sound effects, music, and production is expensive, and it's more complicated, just like a hardback. And the core story is the same, just like the distinction between hardback and paperback. And what we don't have yet is a distinction in pricing. So if you were to go on Audible and get the full cast Dresden Files book that came out, the Stormfront book, it's the same credit as if you would have gotten the single narrator book. And the same is true for the Harry Potter books. They're both a credit. And I'll be curious to see if we see this change. What we may find, and we're already seeing this a little bit, is that the mass market paperback quality kind of AI narration is often bundled in a subscription of some kind where it's free and you're not paying per hour or per book. We may see the single narrator audiobooks move into that, whereas the hardback, full cast style audiobooks will probably always cost some money. But we'll see. I'm curious to hear what you think. So let's check in on the chat. So Writer Law says, thank you for the audiobook update. Yeah, I'm trying. Donovan says, Mike sounds great today. I have decided that I'm going to just embrace being a podcaster and pull the microphone into the 4 fingers away, like I teach authors to do. Patricia says, I just found a full cast reading of a novel and loved it. Yes. A lot of the surveys about whether or not authors or readers like full cast or not are old surveys. And I think as people experience more full cast productions, they're going to get more excited about it. I'm also curious what we'll see, because AI will be able to do full cast. So you'll have different AI voices for different characters. And I'll be curious where that fits in this hierarchy and what readers think about an AI full cast as opposed to a single narrator, single human narrator. So would you rather have an AI female voice for the female characters and AI male voice for the male characters, or would you rather have a man doing female voices for the female characters? We'll see. It's an exciting time for audiobooks. Croissant says, reminds me of the old radio dramas. Yes, although there is an distinction. So a radio drama is actually has a radio play. And that's a little bit different from a full cast. So full cast audio production is word for word the same as the book, but with sound effects. Whereas a radio drama is actually a rewriting of the story where there's less narrator and more dialogue. So it's like a screenplay, but for audio, which is very interesting. If you go back and listen to some of those old radio dramas, there's lots of, here, let me get the door for you. And then there's a Foley sound effect of a door opening and that sort of thing. So a lot of telling and a lot of, as you know, Bob, because the actors are describing the scene. So as you know, if you look out the window, you can see the enemy army there, right? So the sort of things that would have been in the kind of narrator's voice in a traditional book are being placed in the different voices of the characters. This is done very well in Adventures in Odyssey. They work it in where you don't even notice it if you don't know to listen to it, but it is a very different experience. That is trickier because it's not just a matter of hiring an audiobook production company and a team of actors, but it also requires a rewrite of the book. And so I don't think we'll see full radio plays take off nearly as quickly as we'll see these full cast productions take off. But I could be wrong. And I do think we'll see the rise of some radio plays. A really good example of a radio play is Ender's Game. The creator of Ender's Game was so frustrated with the process of getting Ender's Game made into a movie that he basically took his movie script, that's the one he wanted, and he had it adapted to an audio production. So you can listen to the true Ender's Game audiobook. And he basically takes Ender's Game and Ender's Shadow, combines them. So he has Bean as a much bigger character. And it's really good. It's really well done. And it was written primarily by the author. All right. Steven says, oh my gosh, AI is changing so much, from videos to automations to 11 labs for audiobooks. It's a full-time job following its acceleration. That's right. And I will say, prepping for this show requires sifting through a lot of AI news to figure out which of this AI news matters for authors. All right. So Felicia says, I'm not seeing the select program on that website. Where was the press release posted? It was posted to, I think it was posted to the Spotify blog. If you just do a search for Spotify audiobook select, at least two press releases will come up in a Google search. I just did that Google search earlier today. So PJ is saying, I'm wondering if AI will get to the point where it can present an animated style visual of your novel while it narrates the prose. It's actually already there. I saw a tech demo of this just a week or two ago by I don't think it's publicly available information, but this is already possible if you have the right skill set. So we're very close to doing this. Possible, though, does not mean cheap. AI is getting very expensive, and video and audio is very expensive. My cost for running the Patron Toolbox has gone up tenfold in the last week. So there's no new Patron Toolbox today. I'm gonna have to watch the numbers for a while to see what to do with Patron Toolbox. I think it's still profitable, but I'm gonna need to watch it. All right, so it begs the question. So Holodeck asks, when does the author want to start lining up narrator in their marketing process? Before the book is complete or after it's complete? You can do it either way. It depends on how much of a launch window you have. Indie authors tend to be in a terrible rush. As soon as their book is finished, they want to publish it, which is a really common mistake. It's one of the classic blunders, actually. And waiting to have the audiobook ready before you launch the paper book and ebook is critical for sales. All right, PJ says Sora can do about 15 seconds of video. It's going to get much better to do something longer. Yes, in fact, there's professional versions of what Sora does that are already available, but they're like $200 a month. They're kind of pricey. So Robin says, I don't like music and audiobooks. I do enjoy multiple narrators during doing the POV characters. I'm a huge audiobook consumer. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of options, right? Some people really don't like multiple voices, right? They just want the single narrator, and other people would probably rather get a cheaper, good AI narration than to pay extra for an audiobook. And I think that's where we're headed. Right now, there's just the single audiobook format, and we may see multiple audiobook formats as options. Attila says, we appreciate that you sift through the news so we don't have to. No, thank you, Attila.